SecDim Play is a novel game for learning secure programming, secure infrastructure, or DevSecOps. It has a collection of security puzzles and challenges, where each challenge is a program or infrastructure code with a security bug that is either a vulnerability or an insecure configuration. Our goal is to find the security issue, effectively fix it, and once it is fixed, we will be given a score for the challenge. Every challenge is a containerized application. The Git repository or the source code of the application essentially is given to us, meaning we can read and write to this repository. We can explore it, edit the files, save them, make changes, commit them. We can run the app locally as well, and anytime we save and push the changes, these will go to the remote repository. They will be tested against the security and usability test on the server, and if they pass, we will be given a score. Let's start with the challenge called introduction.cs. I'm assuming you have already signed up, so make sure you are signed in. This is going to be a simple challenge. We're going to learn how to use play. So go ahead and hit the play button. Once you click on let's do this, the challenge timer will start. Now, each challenge has a duration, which in this case is 1 hour. We also have 10 tries. So meaning after we have started the challenge, we will have 9 more tries even if we fail this, meaning we don't pass it under 1 hour. With an account ready, we can click on let's do this and begin the challenge immediately. You can clone this repository by clicking on the clone button and doing git clone on the local host of yours with this SSH URL. We can see the instructions via the README over here. Here you can see all the repository files that we have. Over here we have a folder called source. This is where we're going to be spending most of our time, since this is where we can find the code for our application and main program. For the test suites, we will head over to the test folder. In the test folder, we will find our program security test and usability test. The test suites are like a specification for the app, and ideally they should always pass. The tests are divided into 2 files, usability and functionality test and security test. By looking at these tests, we can learn how the app should behave. The usability test should always pass, while the security test will not, because we have not addressed the security vulnerability for this challenge. The security test is an example of an adversarial exploitation attack being executed against our app. We have packaged this into a security test that essentially runs against our app to simulate an adversarial attack. This way we can make sure what our security issue is and whether it's been addressed or not. Our goal is to fix the app to pass the security test while not breaking its usability or functionality. The security test effectively teaches us the conditions that result in a security vulnerability in our app. So our focus will be to prevent the root cause of the conditions that lead to a security vulnerability in our app. One thing that we should always remember is that any of the challenges, we cannot change the tests. The tests are always overwritten anytime we save or push the code to the remote repository. So there's no point in changing them. They are also only a guide for us to understand how an app should behave. Our focus is always in the main program. One last thing before we dive into the code. The tests that run on the server, anytime we save or push our code, we're given an example of them in the test suites that's given to us over here. In trivial challenges, we will see that, for example, in this one, all security and usability tests are given to us, while in harder challenges, some of the security tests are missing. There are also some other files in our repository. If we go back to the root of the repository, we can see there are a couple of files, notably the Docker file. This contains the container definition for us to be able to build and run our application locally. In addition to that, there is also the readme.adoc. This contains all the instructions for us to learn about and test the challenge. This is written in a concise ASCII doc form. Finally, there is the makefile. The makefile is essentially an instruction for the make command. It is used to facilitate the building, running, and testing of the containerized app locally. It is like a helper shell script. Now with that, let's dive into the code. In C#, we follow a model view controller model, where the program file contains the code necessary to compile the program and run it. Our application code can be found in the controllers folder. Here we can see that a web application is defined, the home page of which simply executes this function and returns this string. Meaning anytime anyone runs the application, we will see hello. To solve this challenge, we can use only the libraries and dependencies that already exist. But we cannot install new libraries or dependencies. The idea is to solve the challenge using our own solution. Let's look at the usability tests. We head over to our tests, and in our usability test, we can find that there are two tests. The first test simply sends a request to the root and expects a response of 200. The second test does something similar, except it also expects a response with hello in it. So this outlines how our application is essentially expected to function. Now, to run any of the tests, we can modify any of the files. So let's say we go here to our controller, press on edit, and added a comment. Now, if I scroll down, we can see that there are two buttons. Commit and test will save our code in the remote repository, after which it will be immediately tested, which we can see immediately in the terminal based on the server logs. It goes through a number of stages, namely initialization, cloning, and testing. As we can see from the output, the usability test passed, but the security test failed. This is obvious because we have not addressed the security vulnerability of this challenge. Let's go back and look at the security test. So we go to the start, head to test, look at the security test. We can see that the security test essentially expects our application to also return a response containing SecDim. So let's go back and modify our homepage so that in addition to returning hello, it will also return SecDim. So with that, we put this here, we do commit and test. Note that this introduction challenge does not have a security bug. This is simply a means to learn and understand how to use SecDim Play. With the changes committed, we run the test, and this time we expect all of our tests to pass. And would you look at that? Since we fixed our alleged security problem, our test has passed. With this, we have managed to pass this challenge, and we can now proceed to the next one.